Hello, everyone. Please keep in mind this webinar is being recorded. The link to the recording will be shared shortly after the webinar. I request all attendees to keep their mic muted during the session. There will be a Q&A at the end, and please type in any questions that you have, which we shall take at the end of the session, time permitting. We'll start off with introductions, and I'll tell you a bit about gluten-free GO, insights by Dr. Ruby Ahuja, a Q&A, and resources provided by gluten-free GO at the end. So I hope you're all doing well and staying safe at home. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second webinar of this authority series by Gluten Free GO. My name is Annika Darwal. I'm 15 years old and I'm currently studying in grade 10 in Cheltenham Ladies College in the UK. Last year, I founded Gluten Free GO, which is a social platform which increases awareness and is dedicated to increasing access to resources and information regarding celiac disease and living a gluten-free lifestyle in India. Today, we are lucky enough to have amongst us Dr. Ruby Ahuja, who is a certified NLP trainer and CBT trainer. She has more than 18 years of experience in the field of clinical psychology. She provides counseling services to various multinational companies across India. Clinically, she also specializes in child psychology, attention deficit disorder, psychological assessment, treatment family therapy, psychotherapy, group therapy, autism spectrum disorder, interventions, mindfulness, and behavioral health. She has conducted around 350 workshops, seminars, and conferences. She's been a part of 10 research publications, 8 national and 2 international journals. She was recently honored with the Rashtriya Gaurav Award. As I mentioned earlier, Gluten Free GO is a social project that seeks to increase awareness and access to information on celiac disease and living a gluten-free lifestyle in India. Our mission is to create awareness by conducting information sessions in collaboration with schools, to promote testing and diagnosis for families from diverse backgrounds in partnership with local diagnostic facilities, and to provide resources, tips, and materials to help celiacs lead a healthy gluten-free lifestyle. We've conducted workshops across different schools in Chandigarh to increase awareness and have been able to reach out to over 500 students. The Mayor of Chandigarh has also attended our session and recognized Gluten Free GO for its work. We have developed free educational resources, including a children's book, blog, and educational videos to promote further understanding and give access to information. Gluten Free GO now has a community of over 11,000 followers on social media. We're currently working on developing an app to increase access to gluten-free resources such as restaurants serving gluten-free food and grocery stores which supply gluten-free items, and allowing individuals to lead a healthy gluten-free life. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruby, for being here with us today. So your son has actually been a celiac for 17 years and was diagnosed before you, and you've been a celiac for 12 years. So I'd like to begin by asking you, what was the process in getting your son diagnosed and then further on you being diagnosed with celiac disease?
So thank you for having me over and sharing my experiences. For the first time, I'm sharing my experience on a social platform. So my son was 3 years old. He was not gaining height and weight. And I kept telling his pediatrician his stomach is not right. There's something wrong. He has a loose stool. So the pediatrician kept telling me, okay, keep observing. And then we found out his hemoglobin fell to 5, which was too alarming. So then we went to Fortis. The Fortis Hospital, we got the TTG levels done, and then he was diagnosed, the gastroenterologist, he diagnosed him with celiac. So this is how he got diagnosed. So when he was diagnosed, there was no gluten-free foods available in the market like they are now. So we had a lot of struggle, which I'll talk about later. So then later, after 4-5 years, I had persistent cough and my throat used to be upset. I had irritation in my throat, and I kept visiting a lot of ENTs, and they kept giving me a lot of antibiotics. So I lost a lot of weight because I was on persistent antibiotics for 6 to 8 months. So because I had sinusitis and everybody was treating me for that. I went to homeopathy also. So the homeopathy, they take a lot of history. I don't know how they missed that my son was celiac, since it's an autoimmune disorder like thyroid and diabetes. So you can be celiac at any age. Age is not the criteria. So I probably, so suddenly one day I was sitting and I thought, let me get my TTG done because I had to get my son's TTG repeat done. Every year we get it done. So
Mhm.
I got my TTG levels and they were 300. So no doctor diagnosed my celiac. I myself thought I'll get my TTG levels done. And then I realized that my throat infection was because of wheat, not because of anything else.
Mhm.
So then I went to Dr. Rajendra Shetty and I told him that, sir, this is my TTG levels and I need to get a biopsy done now because I need to see what is the damage inside my intestine, and the process we know, you
Right.
know, endoscopy and biopsy, and then again confirming it is a celiac. That's how I was diagnosed with celiac.
So I feel your experience to getting diagnosed is pretty similar to mine. I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old,
Uh-huh,
and I was also falling sick periodically. I was getting a temperature every few months. So
uh-huh.
then I was misdiagnosed with typhoid and other illnesses, and then I was given the wrong medication, which only made me more ill. So then further on, when I went to because I in the US, my pediatrician diagnosed me there,
Yeah.
and my TTG was 312, and then
Oh,
I had the endoscopy and biopsy as well, and then yeah, I was diagnosed.
yes. Now, see, what happens is in India, the diagnosis of celiac is much later. We keep
Mm-hmm.
diagnosing, we treating the symptoms. So I
Mm-hmm.
had recurrent throat infections. Some treated me for the reflux. Some treated me for antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, but after leaving wheat for 5 years, I never had throat infection.
Right.
My sinusitis went just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then once you found out your son is celiac, and obviously you weren't a celiac then, so you didn't know. So what were the changes that you had to bring into his lifestyle? And then further on, it would have been probably pretty easy for you because he'd already been a celiac, so you knew what to do. But what
Yeah.
were the changes you brought in initially to get a
Initially,
kitchen?
we were very clear that once you're diagnosed celiac, so we were clear that our kitchen has to be separate. The utensils for him were separate, for us it was separate, especially the tawa, the chakla, belna, the roti, and everything. Initially, I bought atta chakki also, but then got little busy with my professional world, so I started buying things from outside. So there were a lot of changes, and also we used to get only Shar products in India, and that was also not easily available. Sometimes they were out of stock, so
Yeah.
we had to ration it, how to use it, and we used to do. I used to do a lot of baking at home. I learned a lot of gluten-free things, making gluten-free things. Nowadays, when I see it, life for celiac is much easier, little easier than
Yeah.
it was before. When my son was diagnosed, so we had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of problem. But yes, everything should be separate. There should be least cross contamination in your kitchen. So when you're
Right.
cleaning the kitchen, also then the broom that you're cleaning should be separate and everything.
So we just touched upon it, just you just touched upon it now about the kitchen being like utensil being separate and stuff. So, but what would be like your top three, let's say three tips for someone who's just been diagnosed with celiac disease and they have to share a communal kitchen space with other family members who are not celiac and may not understand their condition as
Yes.
much as.
Since I've been running this support group for celiac for such a long time now, it's been 17, 18 since my son got diagnosed. So he had a lot of problem adjusting. So I started with the support group of wheat allergy, celiac, gluten tolerance. So I get this question, what should be done, especially in a joint family setup where everybody
Right.
is eating wheat and the child is not eating wheat, or in a setup where maids and servants are taking care of your food. They are not aware. For them, if you're not eating wheat, they have this कि आप फिर क्या खाओगे, है ना? आप रोटी नहीं खाओगे तो क्या खाओगे?
Hmm.
Still, when I go to my mom's house, her maid would ask me, "Didi, आप एक रोटी खा लो, आज तो खा लो." So she will always insist. So the basic thing which I would say is three tips that you've asked for. First is the utensils that you cook your roti, especially your roti,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because in North India, roti and paranthi are staple diet. We are not on South Indian food. Most of the time, we prefer eating roti and parantha. So all the utensils that you're using for roti and parantha should be separate. It's always better to give the celiac child first the meal, serve him meal, and then serve the rest of the family so that the chances of cross-contamination are less. Because
Yes,
if you're giving him later, then you might have flour in the entire kitchen. So it is not a good
absolutely,
idea.
yeah.
So let the child take his meal first and sit down, and then the rest of the family. Third thing which should be done, if preferably, if in the afternoon everybody can eat rice, it makes psychologically, it makes the child a little comfortable, if it is
Yeah.
possible, you know. So if we can adopt one meal according to celiac, yeah.
So, building upon that, your specialty is psychology. So, what would you say? How should children? So, obviously, I was diagnosed at 9 years old. I personally didn't have many issues with peer pressure, but I even mentioned this in my webinar before that it's the people you surround yourself with. But how would you say children would be the best way for children who've been diagnosed with any food allergy, for that matter, to cope with it and with their friends? Because obviously, little kids aren't going to understand that they can't have it.
That's a very interesting question. See, when I made this support group, the concept of support group in India was not there. So I started because my son, every celiac who's diagnosed in initial years, they have a low self-esteem. They feel they're
Absolutely.
lacking something, right?
Hmm.
But if interestingly, we did a research and we found out the IQ of celiac kids is much higher than normal kids. So it is
Okay.
usually 115 and above, which is a high IQ. They never have 90 and above IQ, which normal kids do have. Okay, coming to the point, the psychological impact. What I saw, a lot of children stopped going to the birthday parties because they thought they can't eat anything, right?
Yeah.
And they stopped going to school picnics. They stopped going to places where they were gathering in India. So then we started a awareness program for especially the teachers and the children, so that we can accommodate them.
Hmm.
I started counseling all the mothers. Please send a tiffin beforehand to the birthday party
Right.
and tell the mother of the child that serve him this cake, the separate
Hmm.
cake, and serve him make a noodles or whatever the menu is there on the birthday. Make it at home and give it to the mother of that parent. If they have burgers and fries there, you can always give it to the mother of the child or the host child. So
Hmm.
the mother can always serve, okay, this is your fries and your cake.
Right.
It's always convenient for them, right?
Hmm.
So you should know the menu of any party beforehand if you go to a party, or small kids, for especially small kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because eating is something we connect to. Once we go to somebody's house, we go for a cup of tea, we go for
Right.
dinners and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it is always good to know the menu.
Hmm.
Sometimes initially it was embarrassing, if you're asking, what are you cooking, so the
Hmm.
host would say, I mean, why are you asking me this question? So just be bindas. Don't bother about what host is thinking. Tell them that we have a problem. We'll get our child's tiffin only if you tell us what is being cooked there.
Absolutely. I completely resonate with that. That's what I do in school. So I'm in a boarding school. So
Okay.
when we have birthday parties, we usually treat all our friends in our hostel to a meal, like a Chinese meal or something like that. And obviously Chinese food has soy sauce, tomato sauce, all those sauces which have barley in them, and that's not good for me. So then I usually just talk to the friend who's during the party, and I just tell her, can you, because we usually get it from the same restaurant, so that works out
Mhm.
pretty well.
Mhm.
And I know which meal is gluten free there. So then I just ask my friend to order that for me, and then yeah, that's how it goes around. But I guess yeah, communication is probably key in that
Yes.
with whoever's hosting the party or wherever you're going to.
And also for sending the children for school trips. When they're going for a school
Mm,
trips, you should always know what is being served there. So it
right,
is easier for you to send them rus. It is easier for you to send make mattis at home for North Indians, especially.
right,
Mattis, it is convenient. Finger foods are very convenient, so they can eat. So what I understand, and I've been counseling celiac patients, once you've eaten, your stomach is full. You don't even remember what did you eat.
right.
Once that's how it is. So just eat, fill your stomach beforehand going for a birthday party. You will not feel like eating also. That's another strategy you can use.
Right. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
So in India, how do you read the labeling? Because, for instance, abroad, due to like extremely strict regulations because of all the like FDA and stuff, you can really trust the label, but can we trust the labels in India by lots of companies that they're saying it's gluten free, but there's the whole controversy about parts per million. So if you just touch upon that.
Yes. So the minimum parts per million, the gluten tolerable limit is 20 parts per million. If any food product has 20 parts per million, you can always eat it. That's safe. But in India, we cannot trust the label. We've been fighting this case with food regulation authorities. We've been fighting this case with uh, a lot of people that label should be correct. And
Mm.
now I will tell you an instance, like suppose you're eating basin. You know, everybody say basin you can eat. But
Yeah, but
basin, Shakti Bhog basin, which is a normal basin that you get, or nature fresh basin, or whatever basin you get from the market, they write gluten free. But we got it tested. I'm a part of a group where we get gluten free things, labeled gluten free things tested from time to time so that it is safer and we can say that it is safe for us to eat. Also, we keep writing to companies. When we got the Shakti Bhog basin got tested, it has 300 parts per million of gluten in it. So that means it was half maida and half basin. So that is the amount of gluten we found in that basin. So the basin which you procure from market, which is labeled gluten free, just make sure that you buy from companies who are selling gluten free, who have no other or cross contamination, and also they're labeled gluten free companies like you have Be Free and Mold Free, Be Well. They're only the facilities only made to process gluten free food, so
right.
not the other food. Second, if we are getting things like we are writing mails to the companies, now Cadbury's dairy milk, they've started writing it is processed in a facility which has gluten in it.
Right.
Now, last 6 months, this is because we've been pressing on them that you are, because we found gluten in their product.
Mm.
So we had to write and fight about it that your dairy milk has gluten in it.
Right.
So, yeah, so there are other companies also, like there was a whole food company, Ishi Khosla, she's running it. So we got
Yes.
one of her, there was a big massacre and Ishi Khosla spoke to me that we got her
Hing.
one of the product tested and it had gluten, but then
Yeah.
she corrected it. I think now everything is safe and we've been testing, repeated testing her gluten whole foods also. So
Mm-hmm.
it is safe. So you need to be aware. You need to be
Yeah.
on the toes, all the celiac that even if you're eating labeled gluten free, it should be gluten free. Otherwise, PGI and other big hospitals, they discourage any outside source food,
Right.
even if it is labeled gluten free.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, just building upon this, so because you're a part of a group which gets food items and different products tested regularly for making sure that are 100% gluten free. So, how do you choose the lab to make sure that it will be reliable? And also, how do you get that information across to as many people as possible?
There are a lot of labs which are there, but ELISA testing is the one equipment that is being used in a lot of facility, lot of labs. So we take that
Mhm.
in consideration that this lab food is going to be tested. Otherwise, we fixed a lab in Delhi, and there is one in Zirapur also, which now we are getting it tested. The local people are getting
Mhm.
the food tested. Yeah.
Right. So then for your so getting the information across to people, like is it through your awareness groups mainly? And how can
Yes.
someone join it? Like how can they become a part of the
So
group?
we have a Telegram group by Gluten Free Punjabis, and because we are basically Punjabis, all of them are North Indians. So yes,
Right.
there are a lot of gluten. There's one gluten free group on Facebook also that you can join.
Mm-hmm.
So that way. Otherwise, yes, if you join Telegram and if you write personal messages on Facebook group, we will help you join the group, other WhatsApp groups also.
All right.
And I think all the shops which have gluten-free foods, they have also started making their WhatsApp group. That's what I understand,
All
especially
right. I
in
was not aware
Chandigarh.
of that.
Yeah, in
Oh, okay.
Chandigarh. And so we have a lot of support groups. Whatever meetings we have, we posted on all the WhatsApp groups that the shopkeepers have. So
Mm-hmm.
just tell them, okay, this is a meeting. Now, in this case, our meeting was also posted in about 10, 15 groups. So
Right.
that's how they come to know.
Okay. So what would your tips be as a professional celiac, someone professional with celiac when you're traveling or eating out?
When you're traveling, so first let me talk about local eating out.
Okay.
It's always good to call the chef. No matter how
Absolutely.
comfortable, uncomfortable the manager is calling the chef, you insist that you're going to call the chef.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't trust the waiter, because the waiters, they don't know anything, they are not aware. And looking at chef's face, you can make out that he is aware of gluten or he is not aware of gluten.
Hmm.
Some chefs are not aware of gluten also. So make sure you call the chef and order the food directly to him, so that he is taking care of it. That's how you eat out. So every time, and a few of the chefs, they will know you if you're a frequent visitor in that hotel or a
Yeah.
restaurant. They know you personally, and they, looking at your face, they'll make your own food. So they'll ask you
Yeah.
what you want. So basically, they are standard things that we eat. It is not much of a variety when we eat out. So yes, they know what are we going to eat.
Right.
Now, when we say that we are going out to travel, earlier when there were very less awareness, I used to take my hot plate and also one of my containers to cook my son's food when we used to travel out. But when you're going out of country, I think a lot of restaurants are aware, they're aware, like in US you're going to, like in Europe you go to, they're aware of gluten intolerant and they are sensitive towards it. But when you're traveling within the country, very few people are aware. So please carry enough food, especially your breads and the perishable food items that you can store for few sometimes. There are few snacking things. Otherwise, rice and sabzi you every time you get everywhere.
Right.
That's not it. And idli sambar. But yes, you need to be careful for South Indian also. Now, if we say that we can blindly eat South Indian, no,
Because
because
Italy has suji.
yes, some of the idlis have rava. So you need to again call the chef and tell him बिना रवा के बना के दीजिए मुझे
Uh-huh.
सूजी. Yes, so just make sure you do that. कि मुझे
Hmm.
सूजी भी इडली भी बिना रवा. So best is to eat a vada,
Hmm.
and vada doesn't have anything, and eat it with chutney. Sambar has hing.
Hing. Yeah.
So hing has a, when you read the bottle of hing, you will see this wheat written on it.
Right.
Powder hing will always have wheat in it.
Hmm.
So yes.
I would say for when traveling, I've had a few instances which was quite terrifying experience. I was on
Okay.
a Singapore Airlines flight and they served me my meal, which was my gluten-free meal, but they'd put the normal bread on it.
Yes.
And my mom was like, that doesn't look like gluten-free bread. That does not look like gluten-free bread. And I was like, no, I'm sure it's fine because they've given and this was around like, see, 3, 4 years ago, and I was pretty young then. So I was kind of oblivious to it. And I was like, I just ate the bread anyway. But I only had a few bites. And then I was like, okay, this does not taste like gluten-free bread. And the consistency, you can tell once you've
Yes.
tasted like
Yeah.
gluten-free bread. So yeah, so then we called the flight attendant, and obviously my mom gave it off to them because
Yes.
you have to get mad at people if they're making a mistake when they're saying that it's gluten-free. Because if they're saying that have it at your own risk, that's different. But they've said it's a certified gluten-free meal, then you definitely have to give it
You
off to
need to
people when they're
reconfirm.
wrong.
Please don't feel shy to reconfirm. This happened to
Absolutely.
us also from a flight from here to Amsterdam. They served us normal bread. Everybody was having this. So I asked her, see, everybody is having the same bread. How can we, when we have mentioned gluten-free meal, we have two
Mhm.
gluten-free, you're serving the same bread to us. Thankfully, we did not eat it. So she said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I should not be giving you." But yes, I we have to give them a piece of our mind that it is we are allergic, we are
Yeah,
traveling, we need to be more careful. So when you are
absolutely.
traveling, better to take. What I do is I take my ready to cook food now. It's easily available. So either I make besan ka pudas and then I put it in the foil and then stick it. I make a lot of cake when I'm traveling. It's easy. So you eat a cake, a piece of cake, and you're good.
Mhm.
I know my son and you children, you feel hungry after every 2 hours, so we need to carry little more food for us. Yeah, so don't be ashamed of asking the chef also again and again, the waiters also again and again. Are you sure this is gluten free? Are you sure this is gluten free? There's no harm
Mhm.
in that because it's your health and you. And now I think with so many years of experience looking at the food, you can make out there must be some
Absolutely,
cholesterol
yeah.
in it. There's a coating in it. So yeah, it's your experience then.
Yeah. And I would say one more tip as well. Gluten-free travel cards are probably a lifesaver if you're going to a country where they don't speak English, obviously is their first language, or if the waiter doesn't speak English, and it explains it pretty clearly with the main things that are in a restaurant kitchen that would have gluten. And they're actually available on my website as well in all the Indian regional languages, which I guess could be really helpful to foreigners when they're coming to India, because they're not available, because we have like 28 different languages. So obviously in India, it's only the Hindi one is available, but not for all the
Yes.
other regional languages.
Yes, gluten-free travel cards, they have now since last 5 years, I think they are available. Otherwise, they were
Yeah.
not. So you need to
No.
talk. So wherever you can't communicate, you need to carry those cards with you.
Mhm.
And it's easier. It's not now. It is not difficult because it's gluten-free diets become a food fad also. When somebody comes to me and tells me, "Oh, I've turned gluten-free," I just look at that person. You don't even know how gluten-free is all about. So don't give me that. Yeah, yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Yes,
So,
yes.
what is your take on the presence of gluten in medicines? And obviously, your son was extremely young when he was diagnosed. So, kids growing up, they may have a cough, and then if you're giving him cough syrup, like were you always checking the ingredients constantly? That's just an example of one of the things. Obviously, syrup to bind it together, they may use like a starchy ingredient.
So there are certain medicine like yesterday also I was taking vitamin A tablets. So my husband got chewable tablets. So we I will not recommend that. I returned that. I said anything which is chewable or gummy bears or anything which is would have a binding in it. And
Right.
also the syrups also will have malt in it. So look
Oh,
for malts in your syrup. If they have added malt in it, then just avoid that. Other any medicine which is soft and gluey will have gluten in it. Otherwise, see, we've not got a lot of medicine tested, but some of the medicines we know are safe with an experience like Crocin and all the medicines that we usually take. So I haven't. This is our next project. We're going to get the medicines also tested that are used in regular, like Supradine is a multivitamin that we recommend all the celiac, which is safe. We've got that tested. So we've got only a handful of medicines tested for our children. But look for malt and look not having any gluey or chewy tablets.
right. Hopefully, in the next 5 to 10 years, when there's more development, they'll bring medicines which I've already seen abroad. They have, like I went to, that's why I mentioned cough syrup, because once I had a cough, and then I went to the normal like grocery store, and they had the whole line of cough syrup, and I read the labels, and there was actually only one with it said it's gluten free, but the other ones didn't say it. So obviously, I picked that one up. So hopefully, in the next few years, there'll be more awareness, and even on paracetamol and Crocin, as you
Yeah,
mentioned, they'll
and a lot
mention
of lot
to
of children, Anika, I like to add, a lot of Indians, we take Ayurvedic medicines also, like Joshina, we take
Joshina, yeah.
a lot of things for taking care of our cough. So please avoid that because it might have gluten. I'm not really sure
Yeah.
about. So since me and my son we are hypersensitive, there are certain children and certain celiac who are asymptomatic, who do not show any symptoms.
Mhm.
So they will never come to know about it. We to instantly come to know the moment we have the one Joshina and I came to know that it has gluten in it. So I'm the live testing machine for gluten. Yeah.
I would say I think I'm more lucky in that case because I'm pretty. That's why it took quite a long time for me to be diagnosed. Because that's why when I was diagnosed at 9 years old, but since I was around 7 or 8, I was pretty skinny and short compared to all the other kids in my class. But obviously, we couldn't find out the cause till a much later time, even though there were
Yeah.
other symptoms because my immune system was so suppressed due to the gluten, but just weren't aware.
So whoever is diagnosed is the tip of an iceberg. So we have almost a lot of other children, people who are not diagnosed with celiac
Hmm.
because of we don't have so much testing facilities. The first
Yeah.
celiac was tested in 1986.
Oh,
So
wow.
that TTG test came in 1986. That was much later. You know, before that
Mhm.
there was no wheat allergy tested. Also.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my final question for our discussion today is there any home remedy that you've come across that if you've been gluten, definitely not to fix it, but to make you a bit more ease and have a bit more comfort for your body once you've eaten
Uh,
gluten?
Once we get glutenated by anything that we've eaten and we are aware of it, there is no such remedy like, yes, taking a lot of probiotic is the only solution and let the gluten pass away from your body. It
Hmm.
takes about for my body, it takes about 3 days. It depends on every individual, sometimes it just passes out instantly. I have also seen people taking 4 to 5 days to settle down.
Oh, wow.
So yes, so it takes, and I did a workshop with Dr. Chatwal. He said that once you are gluten by mistake or you eat gluten, you go
Mhm.
6 months back of your age because your body, because your villi in the intestines damaged, and they take about 3 to 6 months to get again
Mhm.
replenished. So it's a tough thing, but yes, you need to be a little careful.
So you know how there's like a common, I don't know if it is, but I've heard this a lot. It's like kind of like a common myth in the celiac world that if you've been bloated after eating gluten, then you can just have loads of water and it'll help. Does it help? I mean,
For every individual, it is different. Lots of water will just flush out the gluten. You can have that,
mm,
but if you have diarrhea, anyway, it's going to go away. So
yeah.
everybody has a different system. Like I have pain in my throat, constant pain in my throat. For me, I don't eat anything. Then I'll take a digestive rest. I don't eat anything for. I just am on fruits then the entire day. So
Uh,
I'm good after that. I don't eat any grain, so that helps me. But
mm,
yes, probiotics do help, like having people who are not milk intolerant because we have secondary infections also,
mhm.
allergies also. So you can have a lot of curd if the curd suits you. But otherwise, have medicated probiotics like Sporulac sachets, Sporulac
Mhm.
DS.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ree,
Thank
for your
you.
insights. Now we're gonna take some questions from the
Sure,
floor.
sure.
So I'm just gonna see. So someone has asked, which gluten-free atta do you use?
Earlier, I used to make my own atta at home, but now I'm sticking to one brand. I use Be Free. Sometimes I take Besan for Be Well also. The companies that I take, Be Well and Mold Free, I take only certified gluten free branded things that I know their facilities are only made for gluten free food.
Mhm.
So yes, for my son, I take wheat free atta, and for myself, I eat very less of atta and roti. I have my own diet thing, so
Mhm.
I eat more of ragi and jwar and all this stuff.
Jwar, yeah.
So
So
I get ragi and jwar as a grain. I get it from the market. I soak it and then I grind it, so I get a batter. So I make ragi puras, and that's easier for me.
So what I actually do is I have like a kind of like a hand chokki at home, and I started off by because I wasn't even aware we are free in the first year of me being a celiac, and
Yeah,
obviously Shaw doesn't provide gluten-free atta because it's a European brand.
yeah.
So I was just using all these lentils like jowar, bajra, different dals to make rotis. That was probably the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So and it's also good. It's tasty. You develop
yeah,
a
it tastes really good and it's extremely
yes,
healthy as
yeah,
well. So.
yeah. There's one thing which I like to say. We all celiac. We eat such healthy food. We
Mhm.
we don't eat junk food. We've never had maida. We don't eat Cheetos and kurkures. We don't eat all of them. So we are little sensitive to junk food also. Once you are having, even if it is certified gluten free, like we got the Cheetos tested, so I got a packet of Cheetos. My son said, "No, I'm not feeling too comfortable eating it." I said, "It is tested gluten free." So
Mm.
we are not used to the tested junk.
Yeah, because we're always apprehensive about something that you've not had for a constant amount of time as
See,
celiacs.
there are three things that we deal with constantly when we are going out and eating out. One,
Mhm.
will this, even if your people keep telling you, so you're going to somebody's house and they keep इसमें बेसन ही है इसमें, we are still doubt. There's always a doubt. Is whatever you're putting in your mouth is you are with a apprehension that whatever you are eating.
Mhm.
Second thing, we go out with a little fear that we should be okay when we come back when we are eating out, right?
Mhm.
Until and unless that person really understands gluten intolerance. So this is second thing. Third thing is, will we get something to eat or not? These are three basic questions that a celiac goes through when they are going out of the house.
Right. Yeah. So someone has asked, how about South Asian food such as Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese food which contains soy sauce? So quickly, I'd like to touch upon that really quickly before you out onto that. I would say that I actually cook. The main food that I actually eat is Chinese food, surprisingly at home, but I just cook it all at home. And I buy gluten-free soy sauce from abroad. And I'm pretty sure now that to India, you can get it off Amazon and they're delivering from companies. So that should still be possible. And you can find loads of recipes online, not even just
So
Chinese food,
Indian
right?
soya sauce, we got top soya sauce tested for everybody who's listening, and
Right.
also American Garden. They are gluten-free tested
Oh,
gluten. Yes,
okay. So they're Indian brands for soy
they're
sauce.
Indian brands. Yes, so you
Right.
can get
Oh, okay.
Tops and American Garden. Otherwise, home cooked food is anytime good, anytime
Absolutely.
healthy. So please eat home. All the celiacs. Don't go for brands. Don't go get given away for all the supermarket and top brands. Okay, can I eat this? Can I? No. Stick to few foods and eat that and enjoy.
Hmm.
And Japanese food is little healthier without the soya sauce. You can have
Right.
fried rice. You can get a fried rice made by the chef outside also. If you're going out to eat Chinese, just tell the chef that clean the wok and then make the fried rice without the soya sauce. He'll do
Yeah, it
that.
tastes equally good.
It tastes equally good. Yes, you don't need a soya sauce for a fried rice. And chicken fried rice, it's filling also.
Hmm.
Yes.
Someone has asked, are you aware of any boarding schools in India where a celiac child can go? So I wouldn't say that. I think anywhere in the world, let alone boarding school, even if someone's going abroad to college, you should probably get in touch with the maybe the hostel master or whoever you're in touch with the school and ask them to put you in charge with the head of catering. That's what I did when I went to boarding school. And I found it was a pretty good experience. They were pretty hands-on and said that because there's so many people with other allergies, such as nut, there's people who are halal because of their religion, so they obviously need to cook all that food separately. So my school is pretty good at taking care of that. But any school or anywhere that you're going, you should probably just get in touch with them before you make a big decision to go as a
Yes,
senior.
and
What would you say?
any boarding school is good if you stock your child's room with a lot of food, and also
Mm,
make sure you go to the kitchen or the mess that they have and talk to the cook and just make sure that every boarding school provides rice twice meal, two meals, like lunch and dinner they give you rice, so you can easily have that. That's not a problem. But if you want to have roti and all, I have seen children taking uh, their tawas and everything in their room and cooking rotis. If they want to eat once a while, like Saturday, Sunday, they do the roti thing and they.
mm,
So that's not a problem. You can talk to the cook and you can do it. So I saw a question who somebody was asking, is it, this is a big myth that disease can be cured with homeopathy. Please
mm.
understand, celiac cannot be cured. It is an autoimmune disorder. Do not give in for homeopathy medicines. And if somebody is telling you, I know this PGI dietitian who was working and she said, with my diet, I can cure celiac disease. There's a difference between wheat allergy and celiac disease. Wheat allergies can be cured to some extent, but celiac disease cannot be cured, so do not give it. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just completely agree with that so much because I had another friend in my school actually here back in India who was celiac as well, and she was having homeopathy, and I was like, "Are you crazy?" Because my mom had told me like so many people having homeopathy for, and I just found that quite bizarre because how is the sugar tablet gonna cure your autoimmune disorder that's in your
Yes,
genes?
yes, absolutely. Genetic disorders cannot be cured with the diet or with the medicine or with anything. They cannot be cured. Celiac disease is totally an autoimmune disorder. It is a genetic condition.
Right.
Now, once you have it, you have
Someone has asked, can you suggest gluten-free breakfast cereals such as cornflakes, etc., other than Dr. Shah in India?
it.
Oh.
That's a difficult question.
Yeah, because Dr. Shah's pretty reliable. I actually eat their
Yes.
cornflakes all the time and it tastes pretty good.
Yes, Dr. Shah is good, but then in Indian, you get some daliyas from a few of the companies that they serve dalia. And I think some of the companies started making cornflakes without the malt, but I'm not aware of it because we don't eat all the breakfast cereals. We prefer eating the regular puras and what are pohas, which is easier. Go for the Indian and local food that you eat. It's easier for you to make it, and don't go for fancy things, because there's a big myth that there is a gluten free oat. oats available. I
Mhm.
am not very comfortable eating oats anytime because oats are and wheat are quite related, and I've seen a lot of oats have people having reactions to eating gluten-free oats as well.
Mhm.
So I am not very sure. So eat what is local, what you can make in your kitchen, something that you can just easily instantly make in your. You know that it is you're sure the flour is there, everything is there, so there shouldn't be a problem with making gluten-free breakfast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Someone has asked, oh, this is for Bhavesh because he specifically asked, I think he didn't catch the names of the brands for soy sauce because I think that's really important because the soy sauce,
Okay.
I
So
wasn't aware of that either, which you got
yeah,
tested. So what are
so
the names?
there is American Garden products, then of soya sauce also and vinegar also. It doesn't. Oh, the vinegar should not have malt. So the fruit vinegar is good, or a chemical vinegar is good without the malt. And
Mhm.
tops soya sauce. TOPS. It's a black color bottle. It's a small bottle which is uh, yeah, which is gluten free.
So someone is asking, is there a big difference in the symptoms of wheat allergy and celiac disease? Are they similar, and that's why people get confused between them?
Yes, the symptoms are almost the similar. Symptoms are no different, but the genetic combination is different. So you are allergic to dust. You don't go places where you have dust, but it can
Mhm.
be cured. You can wear a dust mask, you can have a medicine, and before going, so the anti-allergic you can have it later, and you get over it. But
Mhm.
once you are celiac and you're having gluten, so it's going to damage your intestines and it is going to damage your duodenum. So it is bad for you. So there is a huge difference between wheat allergy and celiac.
So I think we can take the last two questions. Someone has asked, how do you avoid hing if you're eating in a, so supposing Sagar Ratna, I guess would be a really good example because it's an all South Indian restaurant and they have really good dosas. I haven't been there since I've been diagnosed with celiac disease.
Hmm.
But so obviously they're going to be using hing in their sambar. So if you go to a restaurant, is it maybe like wise to call before to ask them to prepare a separate one, or what
Yeah,
would you
you
say
can
about
talk to
that?
the chef. When you go to Sagar Ratna, I usually ask कि आप कौन सी हींग यूज करते हो, पत्थर वाली हींग यूज करते हो या पाउडर वाली करते हो. So
Mm-hmm.
just call the chef. He said कि usually when they cook on larger scales, they usually use the rock hing, most of them. But since when you see the footfall of any restaurant which is too high, then it might use a rock hing. But it is always good to ask the chef what hing are you using.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat the sambar. That's what my take is. I never eat the sambar. I eat the chutneys. There's nariyal
Yeah.
chutney. There's a green chutney. There's a red chutney, and you enjoy your food. If you get a plain dosa done and eat it with the chutneys, don't eat the sambar. Otherwise, there is some hings which are gluten free which are available in the market now. But I use rock hing at home also. I use hing. I use rock hing. I use it instantly, put it in the water or just grind it. Then it is not difficult to use a rock hing.
So for the dosa, is it even a plain dosa? Like, is there not going to be anything to make the batter thick, or is it still just good to ask anyway? But
You can
otherwise, do you
ask.
know if
You
they
can
usually
ask.
use thickener?
Usually use the dal and the rice.
Yeah.
Usually Sagaratna uses dal and rice, but it's always good to ask. I usually don't eat the plain dosa. My son eats plain dosa, but he's okay. He's been okay with the plain
Hmm.
dosa. But if you eat it on the street, eating joints, like sometimes children
Yeah.
go out, so please don't do that. So I'm
Mm.
sure they must be using. See, maida and suji are easily available and they are cheap. So to
Right.
make the food tasty, anybody is going to use that,
Right.
right? So even if they are saying some people, when I have gone for some dinners and lunches, they tell me I have only used corn flour. Please understand, corn flour is not
Mhm.
corn flour. It is maida. Most
Right.
of it is half of it is maida. So you're not using gluten free corn flour.
Right.
Yeah. So please be careful when you're using
Yeah.
yes
I would
anything.
suggest it's always good to ask anyway, even if you know, just double, triple check.
Always, always. It's always good for you only. You're not going to react to it.
Absolutely.
And it is
And then,
embarrassing. It is embarrassing
yeah,
sometimes you are asking, but
but it's okay. It's your health because you don't want to be sick the next day. So,
yeah.
I think the last question for today would be, I want to know about gluten in makeup and shampoo, because obviously shampoo, when we're washing our hair in the shower, it can go, you can ingest it sometimes. And for makeup, for like lipsticks and lip balms, which is obviously going to probably get into your mouth, what would you say about that?
Any cosmetics or any thing that you're using on your skin which has wheat germ oil,
Hmm.
avoid using that. You have all the ingredients written on it. But of late, we earlier thought that it goes through skin to your digestive system, but nowadays, till the time you inhale it or you take it orally,
Hmm.
it's not very harmful. It is harmful,
Right.
but if you're using it regularly, if some skin cream you're using with the wheat germ oil, it's going to be harmful. If you're using once a while some shade of lipstick from any company which had wheat germ oil, it's not going to be that harmful till the time you eat the lipstick or you inhale it. It's inside your system. Yeah.
And I think in all beauty products anyway, it's compulsory for them to list all the ingredients. So it's pretty easy to read the
Yes,
ingredients and you'll be able to.
Indian cosmetic like Maybelline is safe, Lakme is safe,
Uh-huh.
American MAC is definitely good.
Yeah,
And yeah, Body Shop, make sure you're going to a Body Shop, it will have wheat germ oil. Even Forest Essentials, if you're using products from that, it might have wheat germ oil in.
right.
So there are few organic companies which are using wheat germ oil because it's
Yeah.
considered to be healthier. So don't use it.
So is it okay for like shower gels and creams? Because that's obviously not getting anywhere close to your mouth.
Yeah, because in 2 to 3 minutes you take it out. I mean, you wash it away from your body, so it doesn't
Yeah.
stay in your body. So it is only a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. It's only with the lipstick and the creams or the kajals and everything that the
Mm.
other thing that stay for a longer time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's all the questions for today. Thank you so much for your
You,
insights, Dr. Ruby. And thank you everyone for such thought-provoking questions from the floor.
yeah. Thank you,
So
Anika, for inviting me. This was such an informative session. I really
thank you.
enjoyed answering your questions. Great,
So
yeah.
once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of
My
your busy schedule to speak with us. And thank you everyone so much for attending. I think we all learned a tremendous amount about celiac disease and are hopefully better informed about it, whether it's our lifestyle or eating out. So whether you're a celiac yourself or you're helping a loved one who has celiac, I think it's really important to know that there's a community of others who are in the same boat as you, and that there are various other resources and alternatives which allow you to live your best gluten-free life. Please do check out the work that we're doing at my website at www.glutenfreegeo.com and keep your eyes peeled for our new app, which should be on the Play Store and App Store very soon. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and goodbye. And thank you, Dr. Ruby.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Anika.
you. Bye bye, everyone. Thank